Moses stands as a towering figure in biblical history, a leader whose journey is not just a story of deliverance, but a profound lesson in what it means to lead with humility, reliance on God, and perseverance. His life offers rich insights into the qualities that define effective Christian leadership today. Let's delve into the key aspects of Moses' leadership and how they remain relevant for us. Moses' early life is a testament to God's providence and purpose. Born during a time of oppression, when Pharaoh decreed the death of Hebrew boys, Moses was saved from certain death by the courageous act of his mother, who placed him in a basket on the Nile River. Adopted by Pharaoh's daughter, he grew up in the palace, fully aware of his Hebrew heritage. This dual identity created a crisis for Moses. He was raised as an Egyptian, yet his heart was with his people, the Israelites, who were enslaved and suffering. This internal conflict culminated in a pivotal moment when Moses witnessed an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. In a moment of rage and desperation, he intervened, killing the Egyptian. This act of violence forced him to flee to Midian, marking the beginning of a significant transformation in his life. In Midian, Moses spent 40 years as a shepherd, a period often overlooked but crucial for his development as a leader. It was here, in the solitude of the wilderness, that God prepared him for the monumental task ahead. This time of humility and reflection was not wasted. It was a formative experience where Moses learned the value of patience, listening, and relying on God's timing. When God finally called Moses from the burning bush, it was not with a booming voice of authority, but in a gentle yet commanding way, asking him to return to Egypt and lead his people to freedom. Moses' initial response to God's call was one of reluctance. He doubted his abilities, citing his lack of eloquence and fear of rejection. This hesitation reveals a profound truth about leadership. It is often not our strengths that qualify us, but our willingness to rely on God's power. God reassured Moses that he would be with him, emphasizing that it is not about personal qualifications, but about divine empowerment. This lesson is vital for Christian leaders today. We must acknowledge our limitations and trust that God equips those he calls. One of the most striking characteristics of Moses' leadership is his humility. The Bible describes him as very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. This humility allowed Moses to be receptive to God's guidance and correction. He did not seek glory or personal ambition. Rather, he prioritized God's will above all else. For contemporary Christian leaders, this serves as a reminder that true leadership is rooted in humility. It requires recognizing our dependence on God and being willing to serve others selflessly. Moses' journey was not without challenges. He faced fierce opposition from Pharaoh, who repeatedly hardened his heart against letting the Israelites go. Despite the rejection and the daunting task ahead, Moses demonstrated remarkable perseverance. He continued to confront Pharaoh, trusting in God's promises and power. This persistence is a critical trait for leaders today. We will encounter obstacles and setbacks, but like Moses, we must remain steadfast in our mission, believing that God will guide us through. Moreover, Moses' relationship with God was central to his leadership. He communicated with God intimately, often described as speaking face to face. This deep dependence on God was not just for guidance, but also for intercession. Moses regularly prayed for the Israelites, pleading for God's mercy when they sinned. This highlights the role of a leader as an advocate for their people, In our leadership roles, we too must cultivate a close relationship with God, marked by prayer and dependence, especially in times of crisis or uncertainty. Even great leaders like Moses faced personal failures. His moment of frustration, when he struck the rock instead of speaking to it as God commanded, serves as a cautionary tale. This act of disobedience had significant consequences, reminding us that leadership comes with a responsibility to follow God's commands faithfully. It is essential for leaders to learn from their mistakes and to remain humble and obedient to God's direction. So, what can we take away from Moses' example for our own leadership journeys? First, we must lead with humility, recognizing that our authority comes from God, not our own abilities. Second, we must be obedient to God's calling, even when we feel inadequate. God equips those He calls, and our willingness to step out in faith is crucial. Third, perseverance is key. Challenges and opposition will arise, but we must trust that God will work through these difficulties to fulfill His purposes. Finally, we must prioritize our relationship with God, engaging in constant prayer and seeking His guidance. As we reflect on Moses' life, we can ask ourselves important questions. In what ways can we relate to Moses' feelings of inadequacy or reluctance in leadership? How can we cultivate greater humility and dependence on God in our own leadership journey? What challenges have we faced, and how can Moses' perseverance inspire us to continue trusting God through those trials? Moses' legacy as a leader is not just a historical account. It is a blueprint for Christian leadership today. His humility, obedience, perseverance, and deep relationship with God serve as guiding principles for all who aspire to lead in faith. Let us learn from his journey and strive to embody these qualities in our own lives.